I'd like to bring the meeting to order. This is the Clinton City Board of Public Works and Safety. It's 6:30 p.m. on September 17, 2024 in the City Council chambers. Roll call, please.
Jack Milford.
Yes.
Scott Miller.
Here.
Bob Alexander.
Here.
You guys have any questions on the minutes of the past meeting?
I do not. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
Got a first and second to accept the minutes as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Jack Milford.
Yes.
And Scott Miller.
Yes.
Bob Alexander.
Yes.
Do we have any comments from the citizens at this time? If not, I think that you guys have the claims. Yep.
Like the minutes signed off for, I think Bob had already signed all the stuff for Patty. I did it yesterday, so.
Well, the corrections were made. I observed and Scott and then signed it after the corrections, so we went through and signed them all. So
I'll make a motion to accept claims.
I'll second it.
Got a motion to accept claims in a second. Roll call vote, please.
Jack Milford.
Yes.
Scott Miller.
Yes.
And Bob Alexander.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Under old business, Eric Smith is here this evening, and today at 10 a.m. we have the bid openings on the CSO project. Eric has some information to share.
Yeah, today we had the, I guess, long-awaited bid opening for the city's CSO long-term patrol plan Phase 3, 4, and 4A project. As part of the long-term patrol plan, and recall this is a 20-year plan that is aimed at reducing combined sewer overflows into the river to an agreed-upon level based on our plan submitted item. We had a 20-year schedule to get the plan implemented. We're a little more than halfway through that. Once this project was to be completed, there is one final phase to be completed by 2031. So we have a little time before that last phase. This project included building a leaf sewer was to move flows to the wastewater plant so that no more than 6 overflows on a typical year would occur at Elm Street. The goal is to get 6 overflows or less per year at each of the 3 outfalls that remain. We're already in good shape at Wabash. This would get Elm Street in good shape, and then the last phase would get us to 6 overflows per year at the plant. The other part of this that was in the project was also a CSO new screen structure and pumping station adjacent to the wastewater plant on the north side. That will screen what goes overflowed to the river at the plant's outfall, which is number 002. And it also has pumps in there that will pump CSO flows to the river when necessary, because when the river is high enough, the gravity line does not have enough head to push the flows out. We also cleaned up the pipes there so that we only have one pipe going into the existing headworks, so that it can be more easily cleaned and maintained. That's been a problem for the operations staff for a number of years, because right now the headworks has 5 pipes going into it, and there's no way to stop flow and get in there and clean that structure. So that was what was in the project. By our schedule, we were actually supposed to start construction on this over a year and a half ago. But with funding, land acquisition, here we are, September of 24, and we opened bids. So we had 2 bids, which is not out of the ordinary in this construction market right now. We had a low bid submitted by Graves Construction Services in the amount of $9,191,919. And the other bid was submitted by Atlas Excavating in the amount of $11,046,160. So Graves is the apparent low bidder. Both bids, we did just receive these this morning, but we did have time to at least review them for completeness. Both bids were complete, so there were no issues there. So Graves is the apparent low bidder. It is over budget and over the estimate. Obviously, the original estimates for this were developed back in 2020 when we did the preliminary engineering report for this phase. There continues to be a lot of volatility in the construction market with material pricing. That was a common theme we heard from the bidders. Another thing to point out, there is a lot of federal funding out there now, which is good, because we're going to get some grant money on this. We already know we're going to get some, and hopefully with where our bids came in, we'll get more. But with that federal funding, there are requirements such as Buy America, Build America. Congress put those strings on that funding that they put out there for the states, and what that does with projects that have a lot of equipment or materials, they have to certify that they're completely and wholly manufactured in the United States. If they're not, they have to change something or change their process, change how some of their materials are procured. We're seeing those requirements drive prices up as well. So between the schedule, material pricing, and just inflation in the market, unfortunately, this is not an uncommon theme we're seeing. So the good news is your funding package is not set from the state. They will not set that until we have bids in hand. So what we are planning to do is meet with the low bid contractor, talk with them, see if there's any options or opportunities they see to maybe do something a little different, save some costs. We have some ideas. Then we'll come back with a full recommendation of where the cost could be with implementing some of those changes. Scott and I will meet with the finance team, talk about those numbers, and then we'll come back to you with a recommendation as to how we move forward. The only major item I see that where you could save millions of dollars would be if we took the stuff that was originally in the final phase and moved it back into the final phase. But then you're just going to have to build it in that last phase, and it's probably going to cost more when you do it then. So you might save some money now, but you're going to pay for it later. We'll take that all into account. We'll give you guys some options that you can make a good decision on, and we'll move forward. Obviously, it's a project we have to do. How we do it and how we build it and what we can do to drive the cost down is something we got to focus on now.
Okay, I appreciate it, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Eric, just one thing. If you can, I know they give a price list, what you guys have put out in 2020 when you put the plan on, to give us an idea of what the estimate cost would be to build it. Compare it to where you see the rise of cost, whether it was the labor or was it the brass pipe, whatever went into it.
It's mainly material.
Just the materials. And
The other thing that we want to ask the contractors when we meet with them is just how much this Buy America, Build America did to the pricing. You know, how much of a factor was that? Because quite honestly, the funding agencies don't even have a good handle as to how that affects the pricing. So they kind of want to know that. So that's a question we want to ask is, and they really need to get that from their vendors. You know, say, you know, if this wasn't BABA, you know, which is the acronym for that, you know, how much cheaper would the material have been? How much cheaper would these pumps have been? Then we can see what that delta is and go from there.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Our schedule was to try to have all our financing closed by the end of November, or in November.
Close, yeah.
I don't know if that's in jeopardy, but we've got to see where we're going to be. We may have to have some special meetings going forward, but we'll develop a good plan and come back to you with that probably before your October meeting. We're probably going to maybe have to have a special meeting to talk about it, so we have a plan moving forward.
Okay. Sounds good. We appreciate it, Eric. Thank you. Okay, next, Cindy has some items here that she wanted to put up for surplus.
Yeah, I don't have that
Here it is.
Got a list.
Those items are I know it's the box truck, which we used to use it for the water, like the water parts.
The one parked at Main and Elm,
Yes, it is parked at my old office.
old office.
Yeah. It does run. It's battery, you know. It's It's an 89. We bought it used, we just don't use it no more. And then the other one's a 95 Dodge Ram. Transmission went out of it. It's pretty worn tore, so I didn't want to put no money in it. And then the other one's that hydro power washer that was originally at the sewer plant. I mean, Chip bought it when, I've been here for 23 years and we bought it at the beginning then. I tried to get it running. I don't know nothing much about it. It is a pull behind power washer. It's very big. I mean, I'm sure somebody could get it running. I did find the paperwork in the book on it.
The Dodge Ram's red one parked at the
It's parked at my
building
office.
on,
It's parked at my office.
yeah, building up on
Yeah,
7th.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I can get it to my, I'm gonna take the power washer down to, the Ode office tomorrow. But that red Dodge I won't be able to.
Yeah, I seen it parked in there, I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
I'd like to take the money and try to find some used trucks, you know?
Yep, you get good use out of the 95 Dodge Ram. That's a lot of years of hauling salt in the back of it and still making it through.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good truck till the
Yep.
transmission went out.
They were good.
All right. That's the list?
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it, make sure it gets put in the paper, so then the next meeting, if there are any bids come in, we can open them at that meeting.
Yeah. I'll take the power washer up to the Ode office and then I'll,
That way people can take a look at
yeah,
it.
the only
Okay.
one will be at my office is the red Dodge.
Okay.
All right. Like a motion to sell this stuff, or you just?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the sale of the surplus, items at Sydney Gas.
I'll second
Got a first and second to allow Cindy to put some vehicles out for surplus. Roll call vote, please.
Jack Gilfoy,
Yes.
Scott Miller,
Yes.
and Bob Alexander.
it. Yes.
Okay, if no one has anything else, then I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Council meeting will start at 10 minutes. I'd like to bring the city council meeting in order. It's Tuesday, September 17, 2024, in the council chambers. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
J.T. Walker,
Here.
Chuck Pokerani,
Here.
and Dot Lindsay. Here. And Bob Alexander.
Here. You guys have any questions on minutes of the past meeting?
I do on the last page. I think on the last page where the motions were made, that I made a motion to approve this ordinance. Dean seconded it, and that passed 5-0. And then next, Chuck made a motion, and I seconded it to suspend the rules, and then that passed 5-0. And then Bob made a motion, and Chuck seconded it to pass the second read of ordinance 8-2024-1.
Okay, are you talking about the paragraph with old business on the agenda? Was the
The
second
last
one?
page. The last page where it starts, the paragraph starts, J.T. Walker was made to approve.
Oh, okay.
So there's 3 votes there.
I made the motion to suspend the rules.
Yeah, and then everything else looks okay to me.
Okay, JT, so you're saying you made to approve, Dean Strom second the motion, but I put it in there that Dot asked to approve or accept to suspend, and then Chuck made the motion to do that.
Yes.
And you second the motion?
Yes, to
do
suspend.
that? Okay. And then Bob Alexander made a motion to accept, and Chuck
Yeah,
second.
so there was 3 separate votes in there.
I thought I.
So I'll make the motion to pass the minutes with the corrections.
A second.
I've got first and second to pass the minutes with the corrections that they just talked with the clerk treasurer about. Roll call vote, please.
J.P. Walker,
Yes.
Chuck Procaroni,
Yes.
Dot Lindsay,
Yes.
and Bob Alexander.
Yes.
Are there any citizens' comments at this time? If not, does the council have any comments at this time?
I'll bring that up under old business, 163.
Oh, okay.
We'll do that under old business.
The only comments I have, it's from the Board of Public Works to share with the council. Street sweeper, you all know about the street sweeper. We've decided to maybe look at a lease, so the availability of our street sweeper would be back to leasing. Just correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since.
Or renting, one or the other.
Yes. Instead of going out and buying one, we find it'd be better off at this time. They wanted us to take it over there, which we would have to have it towed over there, and the prices of that and what needs to be done at this time. We decided this time just to go ahead and rent, lease the street sweeper from the company, and then they'll bring it over, train Cindy and the guys, and we've done this in the past. In the past years, we had them come over, they showed, train, and then they bring it over on our request. But just remember, so people are like, why didn't they run a street sweeper and things like that? It's obviously because the one we have is broken down, but we're not going to neglect doing that. It's just not going to get done as many times as we would like to be out there doing. And so
Just lease it for the sweeping months?
it's a lease borrow type thing.
It's almost like that we would rent it
Yeah.
for 4 months out of the year.
I think it was April, May, and October, November.
Right.
And then naturally we won't have to pay the insurance. It'll give her space to where she can put some vehicles inside that are sitting outside now. And it sits there and it won't start. She has all kinds of issues with it. To tow it to Indianapolis, like Bob said, it's just not feasible. And then to pay to fix it, where it just sits there for most of the year. I think that Cindy's talked with the gentleman about the lease, and he's going to come over and talk to her about probably what we can do with our sweeper that we have now. They may be interested in working out some kind of deal about purchasing it off of us, or maybe help us sell it. But it's not worth much. How old is that sweeper?
12, maybe even longer than that.
15 probably?
Yeah, I was here.
It's got a lot of hours on it.
2008. I don't want. I can remember it being delivered.
Yeah.
I don't know where I
And we
was
bought
at.
it, and we purchased it used.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It wasn't a-
Just the brooms themselves are expensive.
the brooms itself.
Yeah.
And right now, the problem is with it is the front hatch. I mean, we can sweep with it, but the front hatch will only go up so far. It won't dump in a truck. So we tried to bring the hatch back down, and we just let it sit out there, and it took 3 hours for it to come down. So I thought, well, maybe there's a hydraulic problem. He said, no, you got more problems than that. And he wanted to haul it with a semi and take it to Indy, and it's like, I think we need to wait.
Parts availability is not like it's out there.
Yeah.
It'll be a research and pay. nearly time they get it over there?
She's been waiting on water parts now for months, just for a water utility side.
It's worse now than what it was at the beginning of the virus.
And I just want to get that out there because I know fall is right around the corner. Before we even meet, at least you all would have answers in case somebody approached you in your neighborhood and said, well, what's up with this?
The guys have been out there cleaning curbs by hand and stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, we've got a lot of the south end done.
Yeah, because you're not cutting grass right now, so
Right.
it helps out.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I don't have anything. I don't know if you guys have anything else. Okay, if not, do you guys receive financial reports?
Yep.
Yes. We'll make a motion and we're in agreement that we have received, all of us have received our financial reports and
I'll second
claims.
it.
Got a first and second that the council has received financial reports. Roll call vote, please.
J.T. Walker,
Yes.
Chuck Pokering,
Yes.
Dot Lindsay. Yes. Bob Alexander.
Yes.
Excuse me. I don't have anything under old business, but we have new business. It's the,
I have something on
Wait.
163.
oh, okay.
What did we find out on 163 after your meeting?
Well, Cindy and I met with them at Main and Elm, and they were in agreement that there are issues, and that they were going to try and address the issues that they could. But as we all know, that I think there's more issues than they can deal with right now. There's several problems, and they are, I know, trying to work with them. I did talk to Blake Dollier today, and he's a representative for them, and he gave them some information, more information that I had, because this afternoon about 3 o'clock, a little after 3 o'clock, traffic was backed up to the middle of the river bridge again.
Can't make the turn, yeah.
So I had 2 calls, and we had a gentleman come in here last week. I think Patty talked to him. I was on the phone about 163. So there are issues, and they are aware of it, and hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement where it's going to open that, especially open the intersection up there at Main and Elm, where you can have a turn lane, which they, last fall, they told Cindy and I that's what they were going to do. Going to have a turn lane to the west, and to the right of that intersection, they would have a traffic going forward on north
Or turn right.
or turn right.
Yeah.
But, and that's when they had us paint all the curving over there, but I don't know what happened between then and now, but they are aware of the situation. There was 3 of them, I think, that met with Cindy and I.
You guys and that.
And so they, at one point, the only thing I wanted to research was parking was allowed in front of the Clintonian. Is that so on a book somewhere?
They had us paint that. It probably is. We may have to rescind that, because in order to put that lane in there, the gentleman told us he wanted that painted as soon as you come across River Bridge to about 50 feet north of the Main and Elm intersection, so traffic couldn't park there, so it would flow. That way, if someone was in this right-hand lane and wanted to go forward, you're not going to have cars parked there either. And so that's why they had us do that.
They had us do both sides.
Yes.
But the side by Old National Bank, the corner there where their big sign was supposed to be cut out
Yeah.
to make it wider, and that didn't happen either.
Because they wanted to meet the manager, and that day I
Yes.
took them in and introduced them to the manager at the bank, and then I left. I didn't know what conversation they had with her. But like I said, they met with us, and they said that they would look into it and get back with us, so we'll see what they come up with. But it has been addressed.
Okay. Good.
Under new business, Scott is here this evening, Scott Craig, city attorney, and he's got some budget information for you guys.
Last month you complained about there not being painted, now you're complaining about being painted.
Well, more like the surface was.
Well, yeah, well,
Oh, it's,
And that we know that's not gonna happen right away. That definitely will have lines they can fix, but I don't, that surfacing, they gotta move on. Just
Thanks,
deal with
Scott.
contract.
It'll be bumps. It'll be gone by spring as soon as it freezes.
and they put us,
What I've handed to you is, the work
Yeah,
with
it'll just tear it right up.
Nancy on the 2025 budget, and I was a little late getting started, so we're still gathering some stuff. This is what we advertised, and this is what there's a public hearing tonight for on the 2025 budget. The numbers you see on here are not real. I mean, they are real numbers, I guess. They are Arabic numbers. But this is about double what the actual budget will end up being. I prefer to advertise things high, because if you advertise things high, you can always go lower. If you advertise low, you're stuck with whatever you advertise, you cannot go higher. It's the opposite of The Price is Right. There's no penalty for going over. So I prefer to advertise high so that we maintain flexibility if we do need to add things that we had not anticipated when we first did the 2025 budget. So I actually have last year's budget, if you're interested. It's literally half of, almost exactly half, not quite, but it was like one total of 2.2 million on the top, and then this bottom part equaled 800,000. So it's a total of about 3 million last year total. But that also included some ARPA money that we received that is not recurring money. So I was late getting the department heads their Form 1s. I know Billy got his turned in, Cindy's working on hers. We still are needing a few more of those. But I will, doing the budget, part of it is deciding how much you want to spend, obviously. But you also need to think about and take into consideration, because you are going to be adopting a tax rate and a tax levy as part of this process. You're deciding how much we're going to tax the residents of Clinton. You don't have as much discretion there when it comes to how much you want to tax, because the state sets all sorts of limits for us. So I like to take a look and see what our revenues are going to be. Okay, so the handout I just gave you is the city's revenue projections for 2025, and then I've been keeping this chart for a few years so you can compare revenues this year to past revenues. The good news, there's some good news mixed in with some bad news here. This top line is the certified net assessed value. So that is the assessed value of all real and personal property within the city that is taxable. So this doesn't include the churches or the hospital, but it does include, all your homes, my mom's home, whatever. The total certified net assessed value for the city has increased pretty significantly, from $90 million to $100 million, an increase of 10%. That's good. We want that number to continue. If you are the homeowner whose assessment went up, it's not so great. Mm-hmm. But as the city, that's good for us, because that means there's more taxable property. This next line is the max, what's called the max levy. So even though our assessed value went up by 10%, the state has a cap in place, among one of their many caps, and the cap is your levy, the amount of tax you can generate from your taxpayers, can only go up by a certain amount. This year, that amount, it's really 4%, but because we have a CCD fund that's rate-based, not levy-based, the net effect of that to us is a 3.82% increase in what we can levy. Okay? But this next line is the killer for the city. This next line is what's called the circuit breaker, or the property tax cap. This was something that's put into, we all voted, or most of us probably did vote a few years ago on a constitutional amendment to cap property taxes. A residential homestead property cannot pay more than 1% of its assessed value in property taxes. So if your property is assessed at $100,000, your property tax bill for the city, county, school, library, township combined cannot be more than $1,000. If it is over that amount, you basically don't pay it, and if your bill was supposed to be $1,200, you just pay $1,000, and that $200 means that's $200 that the county, the school, and the city don't collect. If you live in the city, you're going to hit that cap a lot quicker than if you live outside the city, because we have, everybody in the county pays county taxes, everybody in the county pays township taxes, everybody in the county pays school taxes, library taxes. But you only pay city taxes or town taxes if you live in a city or town. So you have another layer of taxation on top. You're paying, there's another mouth at the table that has to be fed. And if you live in the city, you got another mouth. So our property tax, estimated property tax cap for next year, or circuit breaker for next year, is $470,000. Last year was $406. That's an increase of 13.6%. So while our levy grew by 4%, the amount that we're going to not get grew by 13%. So that means we actually are collecting we will collect approximately 1.5% less this year than we did, or next year than we did this year, because of that growth in the circuit breaker. Now, I think that number's probably high. I know from talking to the field rep who actually prepared these, that last year they missed. They were low last year. And so they put a new guy doing it this year, and he erred on the side of trying to be high. And with our growth in assessed value being higher than it has been in past years, I actually think that 470 might be a little high. But that is the number that they've given us to use for our budget estimates. Okay. So we're anticipating collecting about $850,000 in property tax in 2025. The next three categories, that's your public safety lit, edit, economic development income tax, and certified shares lit. These are lit stands for local income tax. So if you live in Vermilion County, you pay a percentage of your income it goes on your state tax return, and then that gets circulated back down to the city, towns, county, depending on which tax it is. The library may get some of it, townships may get some of it. Now, we continue to see good growth in the revenues from those local income taxes, though. So they're projecting for next year that we're going to receive about 9.6 more in public safety lit, about 11% more in edit, and about 9% more in certified share lit. So that certified share lit and that public safety lit, and the edit lit, frankly, they help us make up for that circuit breaker loss, essentially. If it weren't for the local income tax, we would have a bigger problem than we have now. As a matter of fact, I read there's some election season, as you may know, and there's competition between the candidates for governor about how they're going to save people money on their property taxes. And so they all want to, the statewide office holders always want to cut people's property taxes, and so we'll see what happens.
When they do that, they cut
I know,
the amount of money we
there
give.
was a good article I read yesterday with Ames president saying, it's a good discussion, we need to have this discussion, but if you implement these plans, it means police and fire jobs. So because you have, if you're going to reduce property tax, you're going to have to give cities and towns some other way to generate money, be that sales tax, or we don't get to decide the income tax. That's not up to you. It's up to the county council.
Yeah.
And the county does not have the same financial strains that you do. The county is losing money to tax caps, yes, but we're losing over a third of our levy to the tax cap. They're losing about 8.5%. And so they don't face the same crunch that the cities and towns face. And they don't have, and they're elected too, and they, taxpayers don't want people to raise their taxes. So they're under no great stress to do that. But the public safety lit, edit, and certified share help us considerably, and they enable us to do some things that we otherwise would never be able to do. I separated out these next two, MVH distribution and NLRS distribution. This is gas tax money that funds, not all, but it funds most of what Cindy does in the street department. We do have wheel tax that contributes to that. The wheel tax has not gone up in many years. I have had some discussions with the county council, because the county council actually does have a problem with its MVH. It has the same strain on its MVH, because MVH funding has flatlined. We are not getting more MVH money. In fact, they're projecting us to get a little less money this year than we have in years past.
That's where we get our money for our match.
And we also get to use that. Now, half of this MVH distribution, half of that has to go into a fund called MVH Restricted that can only be used for paving, preservation, maintenance, and replacement, or something like that. You got to use it for paving. Now, that's good because we can use it to do match for community crossings, but it's bad because we can't use it to pay for Cindy, we can't use it to pay for any help for Cindy, we can't use it to pay for fuel, we can't use it to pay for tires, we can't use it to pay for utilities. The list of what we can't use it for is a hell of a lot longer than the list of what we can use it for.
And it cost.
And those costs don't go down,
No,
they
they're
just go
going
up.
way up.
But our
They pay for
revenues,
street.
now, I've heard different reasons why the revenue's flatlining. Part of it is that it's based on how much fuel is sold. And we have more fuel efficient cars, we have more electric vehicles. Gas money is, people aren't buying as much gas.
Well, didn't the state take some of that money and put into the state police?
They did.
That's right,
That's
took that,
exactly right.
away from us and put it in
They
there.
gave the
Yeah.
state police a hell of a good raise,
Right.
and they funded that raise through taking, so
Away
they're
from-
taking a bigger cut off the top than they did a few years ago. So that leaves a little less pie to be distributed. So, I was telling Cindy before the meeting, again, I was in budget meetings with the county all week last week. The county has the same problem. They have not enough revenue to fund their highway department if you just looked at this source of revenue. Now, they have options you do not have. They say, okay, we're gonna take $850,000 from our certified shares net, we'll just put it in there and help balance things out. We don't have as good an option as they do, because we need that money to fund our general fund. So, but we'll make it do. We made do last year. We'll make do this year. And we fortunately, or unfortunately, are not getting any new revenues or any increases in revenues for the street department. These other, I call them other taxes, CVET, FIT, vehicle excise. So that's your commercial vehicle excise tax, financial institute tax, and our vehicle excise tax, your regular car and truck excise tax. That money's collected by the state, redistributed out to cities, towns, and counties based on your property tax levy and population. So that money's actually going to go up a lot, 13%, which is good. You see, the year before it actually went down. So I don't know, I have no idea why it's going up as it is, but I use their numbers and that's what they said. Next to last line, payment in lieu of taxes. This is, we tax ourselves. The city taxes the sewer and water systems. If they were privately owned, or if they were, like Aqua or Indiana American, whatever it is, Indiana American Water, they would pay property tax. Since they're municipally owned, they do not pay property tax, but we have the option of taxing our own utilities, and so we do. And that assessment was done years ago by Baker Tilly, I believe, and so we've increased that amount just by the property tax growth, so it's about 3.8% more there. After we do the sewer plant project, we may be wise to have them revisit that assessment to see if that's, with the investments we're making in our sewer system, I wouldn't be surprised if that
Increase the
number
value of it.
increase the assessed value of that stuff, and we could probably tax ourselves a little more.
Tax yourselves, but really technically it's not. When you went on a business, your water and sewer really suffers from that hit. Because I know people don't even want to hear it, they scringe, but if we raise our water and sewer, they scringe, but they don't scringe when Cindy's trying to get parts to keep the service going because of the costs increase. I mean, it's taken months just to get some of these meter parts in to establish new service. And then so you take this payment in lieu of taxes, it's just like, okay, we're going to pay more to carry the general fund, which pays some of your services for city. But the one that keeps you really alive is going to pay that. So you're going to take a hit where you're not going to get the amount that's needed to keep up with today's increases in water and sewer services.
We have
seen
this
that
number,
with the bid.
This number has to be baked into our rate analysis too.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
got to realize if we have to go to a rate increase, just think, we just sit here and open a bid that should not even been, or two bids, $9 million and $11 million. You're talking just stormwater project. Now you just imagine on our level at the water project and sewer projects, we're going to pay the increase of the taxes, which I understand it, but I also understand we're gonna have to do something in order to support that. And I hope everybody understands that part, if that happens to come in to play, Baker Tilly looking at our rates.
It probably will, Bob. End of the line is I won't call it, I call it the total revenue estimate with a couple asterisks. It does not include certain fees that are collected by the city that I don't have an easy way to pull those things. I have the numbers, but building permits, court fines and court costs, those things, copies, rent from the 911 or EOC. Those things don't really ever change very much, and they're really a small overall part of our revenues. This is 90-some% of our revenue is captured here, and it's the part that does change more consistently and annually. So the number was a little higher than I thought. I had told the department heads I thought 3%. It ends up being 3.9. So it's a little bit higher than what I thought. They was going to want papers back to me. Review the numbers, but because I said probably we talked about it and said, maybe 3%-ish more. I think we could probably go a little higher than 3%. And it's it's not necessarily though evenly spread across the board because of these the MVH money can only be used for certain things in street department. So we have to kind of be conscientious about how we spread that cost. But if we do I think the goal of the city every year when we do the budget has been, let's try and keep our growth level. We want to try and stay in the black, right? We don't want to budget for more than we're expecting in revenues because there's always things that are going to come up that we don't anticipate.
Insurance.
Well,
I've
insurance can
met
always
with the
go high.
insurance agent. He doesn't have numbers for us yet, so.
And then there's other things, and the chiefs have come in or department heads have come in and they need a new whatever. And so we have to find, do we have some money squirreled away somewhere? It's not in the budget, but can we do an additional appropriation for $15,000 to buy those new vests? Or can we do $30,000 because we need a new vehicle or something, like more than that probably for a new vehicle nowadays. So we try and be conservative with our revenue estimates, but this is mostly from PLGF with a little bit of analysis by me, but I got all these numbers straight from the state pretty much. Yeah, except the payment of little taxes basically. But we spend a lot of time looking at how much we want to spend. I think it's important to look at what are our revenues going to be before you look at those expenditures. So when we get the Form 1s all back, that will then, when you do the budget, there's actually like 7 different things you have to complete. We've got 1, 2, 3. We got 3 of those done. Those will, when we get the Form 1s, that'll be the 4th. And then once we get the Form 1s, the other forms populate off of the totality of the information. So we should have those, I think, by the end of this week, hopefully. I may need to sit down with a few of the department heads and go over their budgets, but I think you're looking at about 3 to 4% growth in the 2025 budget. It may not all be, I hope it's not, 3% just line item by line item. I hope that, and I think they always do, the department heads need to look and say, well, do I need as much for fuel next year? Do I need as much for tires next year? We got all new tires this year, so maybe I don't need tires next year, but maybe I'm going to need, whatever, new computers or something like that. So I'll put it up there, and that's good budgeting. But overall, that growth probably is going to, what you're going to see next month will be 3 to 5, 3 to 4, maybe 5 in a few spots %. I know it's a lot of information. Sorry.
One thing we're going to have to look at too is on that payment in lieu of taxes, because the water's really low right now.
Yeah.
Our water side's pretty low.
Our water, we need a water raise.
Yes.
Great raise. I know nobody likes to hear that, but
Yeah, it's to the point where it's so expensive for her to run.
it's been
We're looking at maybe a pump next year.
7,
well,
8 years.
And electric costs have gone up dramatically.
Well, that's it.
And they're asking for another big rate increase.
You can't You can't give people 5% rate increases
No.
or pay raises or 4% every year and not eventually need to raise
I
their
think-
revenues.
I
No
don't
way to
think-
raise revenues to raise rates.
I don't think we've raised water for 7 years.
I think it was 2000.
Wow,
Yeah,
Pardon me?
it's been a long while.
I think it was 2018-ish maybe.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a while, and this is not because we have a big project necessarily, although we do have some things we do need to do. I talked to Eric this morning. We're gonna try and meet about, try and get a grant to fund any of these
Mhm.
costs that we have. But when we go, just like when we're gonna do with the sewer project, when we go in for the grant money, they say, okay, we need to make sure your rate is high enough, not just to pay us back, but to cover all your costs that you have as a utility. And that includes your payroll, your insurance, your paying of taxes, your utilities, your chemicals, all those things. And we need to make sure that you have enough to continue to operate and pay us back.
yeah.
Plus 25%. So we'll need to make sure our rate is strong, and I will, you know, I know Cayuga's already raised their water rates this year. St. Benicio raised their water rates this year. Montezuma is going to be raising their water rates this year. Harrisville's already raised their water rates this year. Your rate is the lowest out of all of those, by quite a bit. And it's like Thanos, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Costs go up, and you know.
Well, we talked about it. Once we get the CSO project in running, we can go ahead and start looking ahead next year of doing another Okra grant for water.
Yes, yeah. That's what we would get that'd be the easiest one. Okra grants are up to $750
Yeah.
now, I think. I know, you know, there's some needs with things at the well house. There's probably some power needs that need to be looked at. So we can try and get a grant to do those things, but we do need to look at the water rates. That's not what we're here tonight for, though. But
I'm glad you came in and explained this, Scott. You've been doing this many years for the city, and honestly, not taking away from your past presentations, this was really good. This drove home the understanding where we get the revenue, why you see a revenue drop, and how come we're not seeing the revenue. Like, you know, market value share of everybody's house is almost doubled in Clinton, but you're not going to pay that property tax at that value because they're not going to do it because of property tax
the caps, yeah. And we have a max levy too. So, you know, I always tell this when I was attorney for Dan, they annexed the grain. They have a big grain elevator outside of Dana.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember how many years ago, 10 years ago or so. The owners want to put that in. We've worked with the owners. We annexed that into Dana. Dana's assessed value was $9 million total at that time. The elevator itself was assessed at $9 million. Okay. So we thought we just doubled how much money we're going to get. We went from $9 million to $18 million. We're going to get twice as much money. No, we got the same amount of money. Now, people's tax rates drop. They drop by half. Because now, instead of $9 million of taxable property, you got 18, but the amount of money you can generate is capped. So that was an eye-opener for me on how increases in assessed value do not increase the amount of revenue you receive. Now, again, it will probably actually have a marginal increase because not as many, I think our property tax rate, well, I'll get the numbers for sure. I think our property tax rate will go down as a city. I expect it will because of that 10% growth in assessed value. I think the rate you pay will go down. Whether it actually saves you anything, I don't know, because it depends if you're hitting that tax cap. If you're a residential property owner, you're going to hit the tax cap probably pretty quickly. If you own apartments or you own commercial property, you might see a little bit. Your bill might be a little less because their cap comes in at 2 and 3%. So they pay more. They don't get capped out as quickly as residential property owners do because they don't vote. You do. So the legislature fixed it that way. So so they may actually see some reductions in their tax bills. Not big ones, but little ones. So
You want me to use this number for the first
Well,
read?
we will have, if you, I mean, we read the ordinance tonight, or we read the budget tonight. I can go through it if anybody really wants me to, but I'm looking at John and Kenny in the audience. I mean, we advertise, I told you, it's about double what we actually expect it's gonna be.
You can use this number for the first reading.
No. Oh, well, I mean, you can use that number if you want, yeah. No, wait, that's the levy. It's, Jack, it's that number.
Okay.
That is the budget as it sits.
Proposed.
Yeah.
And then the state cuts it all.
Yeah. Okay, so the proposed number will be the $4,485,000. The bottom of that
Yep.
page.
Yeah, right here, yeah. You need a motion on that? Make a motion, we accept the proposed budget of $4,485,000.
I'll second it.
I wish.
Yeah. It'd be nice if we had that kind of money.
Hey, we'll go high.
Yeah.
I have a first and a second motion to approve $4,485,000 on the first read of the budget for 2025. Roll call vote, please.
J.T. Walker,
Yes.
Chuck Pepperoni,
Yes.
Dot Lindsay,
Yes.
and Bob Alexander.
Yes. Since we are actually on YouTube, correct, Patty? And anybody can access Gateway for these?
Yeah, that stuff is all, that notice is on Gateway.
So any resident, if they wanted to really see,
And
they can catch what we were discussing, and that's the reason we do these videos, is so they don't have to come, they can watch. If somebody
if
can
anybody
tell
really
you.
wants to, the revenue estimates are not on Gateway yet.
Right.
Well, we have to upload them, even then they won't be on, the revenue estimates are all on DLGF's website. So you have to know where to go on DLGF's website to find them, but they are there as the circuit breaker estimates are. We will, once we get the Form 1s from the department heads, it'll take a few days to upload that information. But as soon as we get it, as soon as I have it finalized, I will share it with all you guys and gal, so that you can all see it. And as you know, I've talked about this stuff, and I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns anyone has. We are going to have to pay for streetlights again out of common council budget, just like we have the last few years, because MVH simply, for a while, we were able to pay for streetlights out of MVH, but with the mandatory split of money, we can no longer do that. We barely have enough money to pay for Cindy. I told her, you got about 150,000-ish, maybe in MVH, because we also get wheel tax money that comes in, and we get a little bit of property tax money that comes in there. But once you take out fuel and insurance and spare parts, and it's not a lot for people, because people salaries and benefits are expensive. I had numbers, and I will get you these once we have the final Form 1s. Last year, for those of you who were on the council last year, I did a breakdown of the general fund. 75% was for personal services, that's employee benefits and salaries, and 12% was for utilities and insurance. So that was like 87% was stuff that, like, well, how do I cut that? And that left you, and that 13% included things like fuel and pencils and stuff you do need. So, there's not a lot of, there's really just not a lot of flexibility outside of, moving a few dollars here and there. So, the good news is it doesn't take as much work to do your budget.
But you figure we pay 85% of their insurance.
No, it's
So that's pretty, what's the average of monthly payment for the insurance, Patty, do you know?
Health insurance was around 35.
35,000.
So we have we have good,
We have good insurance.
good insurance and it costs, and we will be voting, in case you didn't already know, Mayor may have already told you, next month's meeting is going to be a week late, October 22nd. The meeting would fall on fall break next week, or during October. It's a bad time to try and have the meeting because people are out of town. We will also have salary ordinances for you at that October meeting. still trying to hone in on what that amount's gonna be. We will, the thing I've talked to the mayor about is also, pay raises themselves, I think, need to stay in line with our revenues. But we do still have ARPA money, and we still can do bonuses out to employees out of that ARPA money. So, like we have done in the past few years, and probably should look at doing that again. If you want to increase those amounts a little bit, that's something that can be discussed.
You talked rather fast. I'm not sure I caught exactly what you were saying. The notice on Gateway does not include revenue? Did I get that right?
Gateway does not have, if you want to get the revenue numbers, you have to go to DLGF's website.
That's DL,
GF.
GM,
GF.
GF.
Department of
www.in.gov/DLGF.
Okay.
And then it's under, I can show you sometime, it's kind of buried, but it's in
Okay.
there. Once we finalize the budget, our revenue, our total, you can actually go on Gateway and see the revenues from last year, because it's called Form 2. If you ask for the revenue estimates on Gateway, it'll show you last year's. If you want to dig into those numbers, I will get those all to you, though. They're very easy, frankly, nowadays. So the good thing about Gateway is it's all electronic, so it can be easily shared. And so, but it's just not public. What's current year stuff is not publicly available yet.
Right, but eventually it will
Oh,
all be
yeah,
on Gateway.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to understand.
So if I get this right, we're moving the meeting back in October, which you've already said.
Yes.
They'll have finalized the Form 1s, the salary ordinance, and they'll have all the health costs done. I'm looking at you, Pat.
Oh.
All the health costs, insurance plans, all
Yeah,
that summed up.
He said
in-
he'd get back with us in about a month, so sometime.
The Anthem usually gets back mid-October.
Yeah, it's gonna, that's the, we may just have to stick something in there and
Okay.
run with it.
Yeah. I know when we first looked at it, we were talking about salary increases, and I don't think at that time we realized we were gonna get hit with $470,000.
Yeah, the growth in
property
the tax and circuit breaker's disturbing.
Yeah.
It just goes up every year. I mean, it just, every year it just goes up and up and up and up. And it eats up more and more of our property tax, so. The insurance is, even if we know what the insurance costs are gonna be, it's still a bit of a shot in the dark, because people on the insurance change, their situation changes. You may have people, their whole family on there. You may have somebody who we hire who doesn't even take the insurance because their spouse has good insurance or something like that. So you see some big swings here. Sometimes you see some big swings within departments year to year on insurance costs. But we just have to roll with it.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, it was 22%, and then he
About
back.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
And the claims that we have, it's.
Fortunately, this year we don't have many, so I don't think, once we talked to him, he was pretty confident, I'd say, maybe, that
I
we're
think
not gonna.
last year there was like a 20% increase, and he wrote a letter, got us down to 6.
Yeah.
So there's always that begging aspect.
And this year, we
Yeah.
didn't have many claims, so
No.
hopefully it's gonna be good. But like I said, as soon as we find out numbers, we'll get them to you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything at this time?
Jack,
Yes.
do we need to ask to close 9th Street for Halloween now, or
Yeah, because it'll be
it'll be,
before the next meeting.
it'll,
Scottsville.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah, because,
October 26th.
We'll have to meet on
Our meeting's
What-
October 22nd.
yeah.
Okay.
But I'll just give you guys a little update on what the park board, they're gonna close 9th Street from Bonning to Knowles, and it's gonna be open for trick-or-treaters. We plan on having some picnic tables down the middle of the street. All the side streets will be blocked, and there's vendors, the businesses down through there, we've notified all them, they're in agreement with it, they're on board. We've done it before, years ago, but now that 9th Street's all nice and new and looks good, we had a meeting last night with the park board, and there's a lot of people involved. There are gonna be some organizations there, so it should be a good time.
Yeah,
But
we should-
we'll come up with a plan.
Yeah,
Rest of the plan for the next
we'll have
meeting.
that done, and the Board of Works closed, and
Yeah,
Okay.
be ready.
yeah. Thanks, Cindy. Okay, if nothing else, then I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second it.